get ready. It's time for the Me and Jesse podcast with Mark Pavlich and Jesse Martineau.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Me and Jesse podcast. My name is Mark Pavlich. Across the way in the Grove, the big, sexy Jesse Martineau, and our special guest today. Hey, listen, you have Madonna. You have these people with one name. You just got to say one name when he's on our show, and it's Bang. Okay, everybody? And Duane BANG Ludwig on the show today. And how are you today?
Doing good, sir. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
I watched videos of you all day long, and I mean, the knee for me is the thing that always is terrifying. It's terrifying watching that knee go. It's like, you know, we play video games when Street Fighter or whatever back in the day, and you hit the knee and you're like, oh, that was so good, but you never see it in real life. And you made that thing that we used to do in that real life, and it was devastating.
Many hours of practice and to develop the timing and the sensitivity to pull it off. So I'm glad you appreciated the artwork. It's one of my pursuits in life is to become as efficient as I can with myself, my body and soul through the arts. So I'm glad you could appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
I actually, that was one thing Mark told me before the show, is that you are a true full-fledged martial artist, meaning that you recognize the art behind the sport. It's more than just, you know, being lethal and efficient in that, but there's an art form. Talk about what you feel like when you practice.
When I practice, if I'm implementing a strategy that needs to be being brought into fruition, say consciously, then there's a lot of thought to it. But the whole goal is to drill it until you feel it, where no longer is it a thought, but just an instant reaction, like Bruce Lee would talk about all the time.
Right.
So that's just the goal, is to hopefully get in tune with my mind, my body, and my soul, so I can react when the moment is right, and being able to be maybe a half a second ahead of the moment, so I can be aware of it without being consciously aware of it, though. So it's art. Just like if you ask anybody who's at the top of their craft, you ask them what do, they say they don't know, because they're in the moment. They're not supposed to know. They're supposed to allow it to happen. So
right.
It's God's divine creation and coming into work into fruition. So to hopefully pull off these magical moments, and they can live forever. Now that we have the digital world anyway, the things seem to be living forever.
Yeah, that's right. We can always watch it.
Duane, do you think, like I was thinking of this all day today, because I do come from a martial arts background, and I have trained people in mixed martial arts for many years. I fought in the UFC, and I own the MFC and all these other things, but I never forgot the martial art way. And what I've noticed now in MMA, immensely, in the acronym MMA, if I had $1 when I started in 1999, Bang, and I remember telling people, they asked me, Mark, what does MMA stand for? And I'd say mixed martial arts, but I was very proud to say martial arts. Now,
Yes,
do you think in today's version of MMA that the martial arts has left the building?
In most individuals, yes, and I see today's MMA scene should be spelled DRA MMA, so it's drama is the way it is. They're trying to connect with the average individual, and 80% of the world's population. One thing that they can do is they can talk and act bad, but very few people actually step up. So the athletes are doing what they need to do, thanks to Chael Sonnen and Conor McGregor, who brought the spotlight to the talking aspect. So they're just all trying to get their name relevant through the microphone and be able to connect with the regular audience. And I understand the marketing aspect of it, but in my eyes, martial meaning war, art is the expression of the human soul, and there are many ways to actually do that. And hopefully your personality will come through that filter in its truest form. But again, like people like Conor, he's been a little bit off the rocker lately, but precursor to his crazy stunts, he was actually a really down to earth, good guy, and I had a lot of respect for him. But he's been a little bit off the rails. But I'd like to see a little bit more respect and being able to lead the next generation up by assuming more responsibility and just being a true leader. And I feel that's what a martial artist is someone who's going to step up and do the right thing to help other people better their lives, not just to be an asshole. So I would like to see a more honorable approach, especially from people like Dana White, who seems to ride that line as well. He's the head of a figure, the head of one of the biggest growing industries in the world, and he's kind of I think he could use some more responsibility when he talks. And I'm trying to do my best not to sound like an asshole myself. So I know, just like Joe DiMaggio said, that he always performed his best because he wasn't sure if the people in the crowd was the first time they were seeing him or the last time that they were seeing him, but he owed them his best. And do you want your children to see you at your best or at your worst? And it becomes a form of discipline internally. Good thoughts, good speech, good deeds is the path of a martial artist.
Well, that is absolutely the lead to me. What a leader is, like, that is what it should be. Now, today, though, we buy, let's say, for example, the Jake Paul and Logan Paul fights because there's a lot of DRMA attached to that thing.
Yeah.
And we know, like, there's no business watching these amateurs fight. It's not for that. We buy it for the drama. So how much of that needs to still remain in MMA or does it at all?
No, I think it needs to be there because look how many people know Conor's name just because he is talking. Of course, he has some brilliant knockouts and some good performances early in his career. Now, the later in his career, they're just falling apart because he's doing too much time talking and spending his money and not training. He's no longer as disciplined as I think he should be in order to be competing at the top level that he's at. Not to keep bringing up Conor, but the same thing with the Paul brothers. They seem to be training hard, though. They're dedicated athletes, and I think they're taking it serious, and they're taking it serious on the mic as well. Like for me in my school, I feel I'm one of the best martial artists today, and I have 250 members, but I know there's Mick Dojos down the street that have 400, 500 members. But they have a better marketing system because they're talking, they're connecting to the average person. So there is some obviously, I would just say, some wealth to that. But
is there happy medium though? Bang, is there happy? Can't there be a happy medium?
Half the crowd wants responsible adults. The other half the crowd wants to have some drama. Let's bring them both together and maybe make a blend because we do have to be, fluent in all aspects. So you might as well have some blend of that. But yes, I would like to have more St. Pierre's in the sport.
Yeah.
I miss St.
That's what I was going to say, actually, because as Canadians here, that's who we talk about a lot. But St. Pierre was like that. Now, again, like for me, when I was starting watching UFC, it was more about the drama because I didn't understand. Then I go and, take jiu-jitsu on my own and you start to understand, something else is happening here and you can respect the fights. Maybe that's just it. Maybe that's an education piece that needs to happen more and more. And I feel that the UFC doesn't quite educate its fans on the art. They just put the drama on our face.
Yes, but then also the fighters are, when they get the microphone and they get the camera, they're producing the drama aspect rather than utilizing that time to hopefully encourage the youth or maybe their fellow training partners or whatever it may be. I have a striking system, primarily striking system that has belts, and it's more kickboxing. And a lot of people say we shouldn't have belts in kickboxing, but I've dedicated my life to the martial arts, and I understand that there are layers to every endeavor, and I've been able to layer it up and rank it out. And one of the things I look for in my higher belts is not just a killer. I want to have the warrior on the guard. I want to have the sharp sword sheath, ready to handle business. Is helping the old lady cross the street.
Yeah,
that's the warrior. That's what we need more of those people in our life. And I'll step up and do my best to be that person.
Bang, if you were in a street fight and you had to pick 4 guys in the whole entire world, who would you pick?
To fight or to have my back?
To have your back, 4.
Oh, Sensei Boss Rutan. I'll take St. Pierre, TJ, because I know he'll fight to the death. And let's see a fourth one.
I'm writing these down. I'm writing them down.
Living or past, does it matter?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Bruce Lee, baby.
That's awesome.
You ain't losing.
That's
You ain't
awesome.
losing
No,
there.
no.
You ain't losing there. Now, your relationship with Boss Rutan. I know Boss since 1999, right? And he used to come to multiple. He's been to like 10 of my shows back in the day.
He was on this show.
And he's been on this show, and I've just known him for 20-something years, you know? And I remember him talking about you, and I introduced him and Sean Tompkins together,
Cool.
the late Sean Tompkins, and I introduced them together, and that was back in the day when they were both crazy. So when they got together, it was crazy. And then, but Boss, when I saw Boss do some certain things, when we were in Calgary, I had an MFC there, and we were out the night prior. We were having dinner, drinks. We had fun. And all of a sudden, he says, I want to go to that gym, Mark, and I want to go train with all those guys. And there's literally like 6 UFC guys laying around, and they're all on the mat. And Boss took his shirt off, had jeans on still, walked out on the mat, and tapped out everybody and left.
Yeah.
Because no one knew about that he knows about ground too, right? Everybody just thinks, oh, he knows how to stand up fight. And my questions are, why did it take so long for people to know about your coaching, and why does it take so long even to this day? I watch guys throw a lead front kick or lead like inside kick or outside kick, and what bugs me is that since I was a kid. And my son knows it best too, and he's in his 30s now. My son would never throw a lead tie kick. You know what I mean? Like he would throw it off a jab, cross, hook, kick, or he would throw a jab, cross, kick, right? And that was Boss that always ingrained that in our heads, right? He was always telling us, don't throw a lead kick ever. I don't care. Throw something.
I think there's a timing and a place for everything. So
correct.
You can throw a lead kick. You gotta know when to throw that. So let's say we're both in an orthodox stance. We both have our left leg forward. And the guy throws his cross, I can parry that and go lead round kick.
And then bam, yeah.
Or so there's options. I go lead round kick to invite his cross, and then go alley cross. So you can use it as a bait. So there's definitely times to execute many techniques. There's no right or wrong. It's all shades of gray. But if you are not knowing of those next steps, then you could be in trouble. Yes.
But do you see that lots in the UFC? Guys just throwing lead kicks all the time, and they don't really know how to set them up prior or after. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. So there's I think the overall skill set of the UFC guys right now is they're much more well-rounded. Yeah. I don't think they have the in-depth knowledge. Everyone's, sitting home watching videos and thinking that they're a UFC fighter now. And I'm the one putting out the videos too, right? So I can't, but, that's the goal too. I'm putting out as much content as I can to make sure people are training safe and effectively. Things I've learned throughout the years. I don't want to hoard it in my own dojo. I want to share it with the world. So there's all the video clips. But again, going back to Sensei Boss Rutan, him being a legitimate world-class athlete, but preferring to mainly strike and not work as much ground game is why the reason the world doesn't know him as the ground guy that he actually is. And as far as the world not knowing about my coaching, pre alpha male, I just wasn't doing it as much at that time. Oh. But during alpha male and after that, I had the public light. So the skill sets were already there. Got a little bit better over time, but just the microphone was on me, and I've been able to hopefully positively impact the world.
Yeah. Now, Joe Rogan always said that you're always a step ahead of the next guy. Is that something that is God-given, you're born with, or is that something you've trained?
Yes and no. I've always been aware of that sixth sense, that spiritual intuition. I've always had a good sense of that, and I remember my dad telling me when I was younger that he knew I could draw a bead on the guy if he was full of shit or not. My dad would tell me that. And I didn't know what he meant, but now today I know what he's talking about. That sixth sense and be able to feel someone's sketchiness or their evil intuition. So I think a little bit of that is God-given, and then being able to hone that and extract it over the years. And that's what matrix means. Matrix means to extract from within. So I've been able to pay attention to more of that and do more drills and just be aware of that, which is say skill or power, and being able to, again, enhance it, right?
Oh, that's really cool. I like that a lot. Now, talk about your school for a little bit, because it sounds different, or your approach might be different than the traditional.
Well, I feel I'm doing what everyone should be doing. We're a traditional martial arts school. We show up on time. We bow on the mat. We take care of our partners. We get better. We have a good time. But there's discipline, order, and structure there, because that's what the world needs. That's what I need. Yeah. And it helped. Yeah. I came from like a lot of people say, a troubled youth, a troubled past. I spent a little bit of time homeless as like a 10, 11-year-old kid, and I learned some tough lessons in life. and without the discipline structure that I've learned from martial arts, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. 8 blocks down the road was my first job was McDonald's. Now 8 blocks up the road, I own the building that I'm teaching martial arts in, and that has been attributed to a lot of people helping me over the years.
Wow.
Or more so is the discipline aspect that I've learned again from martial arts. So my first instructor when I was 8 years old, Contra Nanomiya, who is as traditional Japanese karate as it gets. He was under Ashihara, and those are the same key principles that are helping me become a better human being that I've learned through martial arts that I feel every school should be teaching their students now, not just punching and kicking, because there's a lot more to life than just punching and kicking.
I always found that too when I'm, you know, even myself, it was about the culture as well, where you know, when I was in the 80s growing up, people like, oh, martial arts, that's, just to beat people up or whatever. And you're like, no, that wasn't what it was. But you can see the discipline in kids. He's like, that kid must be in martial arts because there's a respect, there's a discipline, there's an ability to take a correction or teaching even that they're just used to, where a lot of kids now will shut down if they get some sort of tougher lesson. And Mark has said this for 1,000 times on the show that rather than putting your kids in hockey, forget it. Put them in martial arts because they're going to not only learn something athletic,
I get flamed for that too.
But you learn how to be.
It depends on the instructor. It depends on the instructor.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
They could teach basketball. Well, I'm not a good basketball player, but I'll tell you what. No matter what I taught, my students would be there on time with their mouths closed, being there to be a good student, so they can learn, serve, grow, and love. That's what would happen. Because those just core principles that are within me that have been extracted from martial arts. But it just, and that was one of the main reasons why the Alpha Male guys did so good, because they're world-class athletes with a great community amongst themselves. I just showed up early with a game plan for them to follow, and they knew I was as committed to their career as they were. So that made them get their shit together. And I knew that if they had their shit together, I had to keep my shit together. So it was a win-win. We both kept everyone, iron sharpens iron, right? It's in the Bible. That's the reason why it's in the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is that, Proverbs? I should find out what proverb that is. Proverbs.
Jesse, you know, don't you? Jesse, you must.
I don't know the reference off the top of my head, but it's in there.
Yeah.
So this comes back to another proverb 22:6. In the King James version, it says, "Train up a child according to the way he should go,
and he'll not
and
depart from it." Yeah.
Yes, but the Hebrew version is, I feel, a better version. Train up a child according to his ways, and when he gets older, he won't depart from it. And I think that's a better version, because that's teaching the instructor to adapt to the athlete. But
that's really cool, yeah.
Because you got to adapt to the athlete, but if you don't know what the hell you're doing, then how are you going to help them? So
that's actually really interesting take on that.
Yeah, because what you're doing right now is you're taking the Tao of Jeet Kune Do and you're taking the Bible and you're crossing the two over. Yep. Since you've been talking, listen. I'm an old Jeet Kune Do guy, right? So
nice.
so and pretty advanced in that. But what the funny part is, when I hear you talking, and Jesse and I are both practicing Christians, so I thought it's funny. And then and you're crossing the two over, and I'm like, this is bizarre because I'm listening to you talk, and I'm like, this makes so much sense to me. But I'm thinking people at home are like this, trying to write this down. They're like, wait a second, what did he just say? Because you have to think to yourself, what you're saying right now is, what you're doing still to this day is rare, because bowing's out of martial arts. Exactly. Shaking hands is out. Like I've said to many parents, stop wasting money on hockey. And my father was in the NHL. My uncle was in the NHL. And I tell them that percentage is super small that get to the NHL, and you're spending tens of thousands of dollars every year on your kid's hockey career. If you spent half of that on martial arts, your kid would be set for life.
Yeah, but there's some McDojos out there though as well. And then there's McDojos teaching shit, and then there's straight up fight gyms. Yeah. I feel I'm in the middle. Yeah. I know I have my system has been proven. I mean, it's Sensei Basuin's system. I don't want to say better, but just I would say enhanced a little bit as he went on to more the movie career. I feel I picked up where he left off and continued to add more pieces to the puzzle and kept with the current times, but still kept the traditional aspects. So along with a lot of these sayings that people throw out today, these motivational speakers, all these successful people, they're just rehatches of the Bible. Everything is in the freaking Bible.
I know. I scroll through all the time. I'm like, I know where that's from. Talk about how did you meet up with Boss? How did that whole connection start?
so Sensei Basumi, so I've always known of him from the pancrase fights. And then one time my dad and I drove out to Vegas to watch a K-1, and I first met Sensei Basumi in the hotel lobby. And he was just as excited as it was to meet me as it was to meet him.
Wow.
And I was like, how can this be? You know, like I wasn't the martial arts celebrity, but he was. And I remember him telling me, you know, just keep training and stay consistent and you'll be a martial art champ. And that's what I did. And his words, they sunk a seed of belief. And then I've just believed it ever since then. I've always felt it too, that I'd be a martial art champion. I knew I wasn't going to take no for an answer. I was going to be win a world title and have my own dojo. And that was it. And things are going to come together. But I met him in Vegas. And then fast forward probably 2 years, he's at the front door of my dojo that I was teaching out of, this gymnastics facility that had full-on MMA fights. The old school UFC promoter or matchmaker John Peretti.
Oh yeah,
he would show up to these fights. This called the Lone Wolf Invitational, but then they renamed it to the Boss Rutan Invitational. Jens Pulver, Heath Herring, Yves Edwards, Nate Marquardt, Chris Brennan, all these people came through these shows. But the promoter hired him to be the face of the show, and I was fighting on the shows and teaching out of that school. So that's how we crossed paths.
Wow.
Somewhat randomly, but within the martial art world. And the day after the show, he would run a seminar. You know, the shows would be on Saturday. He'd run a seminar on Sunday. So I'd always fight, I'd always win, and I would do his seminars. And then he realized the benefits of the training here in Colorado with the elevation. So he did his UFC title fight camp here, and I trained with him every day, and we just developed a good bond because, well, he was my hero, and then he, you know, found a kid that was, I'm trying my best not to be a pussy, but I trained pretty hard,
Yeah.
and he respected my work ethic, and I was an honorable, nice guy, nice kid, and he took me under his wing, and I'll never forget that.
Wow.
What was it though? Because you said you had a rough childhood and things. Typically that makes a kid rough or a guy rough. What was it?
I think about that quite a bit because I have 3 kids now, and I want them to have somewhat of the same skill set understanding that I do, and I'm trying to figure out how I learned all this stuff. And I want my kids to get the same, you know, extract the same lessons from it, but without having to go through the bullshit.
Yeah,
yeah, that's a tough one.
You know, evicted in the freezing cold with their stomach hurting and no place to go, like that sucks. But without that, I wouldn't be hustling as much as I hustle now, and get my ass up and lead by example and answer the calls back. And if I tell someone I'm gonna do something, I try my best to make sure it's done, or I don't say I'll do it. So it's, you know, like I grew up on whatever welfare, and like I was the white kid in the predominantly minority neighborhoods. I mean, I was just that kid. Now I hear these stories. At the time, I didn't know any better. I didn't have white friends for whatever, you know, if you want to talk about the race aspect, but I grew up around non-whites, whatever that's worth, right? So I didn't really understand the racial barriers. Like everyone was just always talking shit and being cool. It's just how it was. Like you talk shit and you fought and you had friends. That's just the way it was.
That's the way it was.
And then when I got older, then I realized like things like racism and stuff, and I see people like not liking another race or talk shit, and I thought they're just joking, but no, they were serious. I'm like, wow, like that's kind of crazy. Like, how do you have that? So I have more of a global view ever since I was a kid. One of my heroes is Bruce Lee. He's Chinese, right? One of my heroes is a Jew, you know, it's Jesus, right? So it's like all my heroes, the only white hero I have was Boss Rutan. You know, everyone else was Chinese, it was Hebrew, it was Jewish, and it's just so it's just to have these influences have really helped me come through the trying times that I've had. And you know, you don't think of it much as a kid, but some nights you go to bed hungry, and that's just the way it was. Like you didn't know any better. But I mean, I think that's what connected me to the fighting, because cutting weight, I was like, shit, I've been here before. I don't have to eat. I can't eat. Like it's all good. You know, short. I don't fight for 2 months. That's just how it is. So my fight life was very similar to my childhood. So I think I just kept that running as out of habit maybe. But then when I became more mature and responsible, realizing I had dependence, I realized I had to get my shit together. And the lessons I learned from martial arts helped mold me to the man I am today.
When did faith come into it?
Yeah.
Faith, well, my mother I grew up as a Catholic. She'd always take us to church on Sundays, and in the Catholic church I went to, you sat down and you shut up for an hour.
Yeah.
So, you know, at the time, like, I don't remember being bored or anything. I remember not being engaged, not knowing what they're talking about, because they're mumbling and speaking Latin and stuff, and you're like, what's going on? But I knew I just had to pay attention and be quiet, and I had no idea what I was paying attention to. Like, I don't remember learning anything but having the ability to shut up. And I think that's huge. I called Stephen Thompson's dad one time. Stephen Thompson, I'm very impressed with that guy as a human being and as a martial artist. And I'm like, man, how did he develop? What did his dad do? So I called his dad, and his dad, he's like, hey, I got to give you a lot of credit for reaching out to someone that you don't know, trying to get advice from. Like, well, that's what everybody should be doing to learn and grow. But I want to learn, like, how did you make Stephen Thompson such a disciplined, honorable guy? He goes, well, you know, we do a lot of drills in our school, and one drill is they have to line up and stay in line. What does that acquire? Discipline. So he does a lot of these small little drills that help form a human just to control themselves. And once he said that, that rang a bell. I was like, man, that's what I was doing in church. I was sitting down, minding my business, learning not to move and have self-discipline and control. So martial arts, also I can't neglect the Catholic aspect of sitting down every Wednesday and Sunday and shutting up. I think that helped a lot too.
It's funny that you've actually taken the probably one of the things that most people complain about. Yes. And you've actually turned it into a massive positive and a life lesson for your entire life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because most people complain about that. I had to sit down and shut up for an hour. I wasn't allowed to move. And you've taken that and said, this has been one of the best things for me, which I agree with completely.
In my class, all right, guys, I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to show this demo. And I'm looking around, and grown-ass men are staring at the wall. I'm like, hey, get your ADD over here. Focus. Pay attention. I don't want you asking what we're doing in 30 seconds because you didn't pay attention. So I'm trying to hide these skills in the drill, but it's doing little things as well. So again, I'm not just teaching my people to punch and kick, but to pay attention and be accountable. You know, we wear we wear belts and also a ranked colored shirt. So your belt should match your ranked colored shirt. And this is teaching people to do their laundry and prepare for an event. They have class tonight. Bring your shirt, make sure it's clean, and the correct color shirt. So it's not to be controlling, it's to teach them to get their shit together.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I love it.
And again,
it's dying. It's dying. It's dying. It's dying in the martial art world. But I'm saying to you, and outside of like the traditional, like you say, McDojos, they continue on with it because that's their sole money maker. It's not so much on teaching the right skills. It's more of like I know many kids in my neighborhood that bug me even to this day, and my wife says, "Don't come around my husband. He will not teach you anything anymore." And what happens, because my days are over with that, but what happened is that these kids get these black belts, and then they have this premonition that they actually know how to fight. So one of the kids comes over,
I hate that.
And that this is catastrophic because one of the kids comes over one day and he says, "Mr. Pavlich, I want to show you what I know how to do." And I said, "That's fantastic. I'd love to see it." I don't want to discredit anybody. And the kid's happy he's got the black belt. And then he's showing me some stuff. And then I said, now do that on me. Like hit me like as hard as you can. And I said, I'll give you $100 for every time you punch me in the face. And I'll give you another $100 if you can front kick me. You know what I mean? And he's like, "Are you serious?" I go, and my wife starts laughing. She says, "Oh no." Right? and so what happens is he throws the front kick. I scoop him, I double leg him, I take him down. I got knee on belly. And the father's like, "What just happened?" And I'm like, "You guys, I'm old. Okay. I'm not athletic. But what I do know is how to do these certain things in life." And what I'm trying to get across to you is, please, if you're going to take your kids for any form of martial arts, I've pleaded with people on this show, take them to somewhere where it's going to benefit them. I'm not saying to get into a fight. I'm just saying is so you don't get into a fight.
Yes.
It's funny. I'm 54 years old. I can count on one hand how many street fights I've been in through the course of my lifetime because people just kind of knew at one time or another, that's not maybe a good idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even in the MMA world, when I was in the MMA world with the MFC, I can remember 100 agents that are agents now in MMA thinking they're fighters, telling people, "Oh, I'm gonna kick Mark Pavlich's ass when I see him," and people would reach out to them and say, "I don't recommend that." You know what I mean? Because he might bite you. He might bite you, and they're like, "What do you mean he might bite you?" And he goes, "Yeah, like it's just the way it is." But what I want to get across to people in general, and I'm so glad you're on the show today, is because I want to implore parents to get their kids in proper martial arts, and I want you to explain. I want you to explain to parents at home because I know as this episode goes on, thousands and thousands of people watch our show. What's going to happen is I want you as the expert on this panel to explain to people what to look for because they don't know what they're looking for.
Yes. I guess it depends on what they want for their child. If they want their child to be a badass fighter, and if they're in the Montreal area, Faraz is awesome. I love Faraz. I don't know how much martial art skill sets he implements in his classes or his facility, but I always hear good things. So I guess it would depend on what the parents are looking for the child. If they're looking for them for discipline, honor, and respect, then they're going to make sure they feel it out. But I would love to have people teach my children how to fight, also how to stand there with confidence, be on time, be a good partner, but also to de-escalate a potential fight and to be aware of the surroundings, like we talked about the sixth sense, and just know if you're around some sketchy people, have your back to the wall. If you're in a bad area, don't fucking be there, right? There are things that you need to learn just over time in general. So it's a combination of a few things. Obviously, if you want to talk about actual techniques that they should be learning, there's a book, Fightnomics, that broke down all the techniques that happen in MMA. Now, the jab and the overhand are the two most basic combination strikes in MMA. So they need to know those. The rear low kick, lead body kick. Okay, there's 3 takedowns that happen in MMA. There's the double leg, which is the number 1 takedown. There's the single leg, and then there's the body lock, the outside trip from the body lock. So there's 3 takedowns. There's 5 submissions. So if you actually want to know the things that they should learn to hopefully defend themselves in a street fight, jab, how to throw a jab, how to defend a jab, how to throw an overhand, how to defend an overhand, rear low kick, lead body kick, the double leg, single leg, the body lock from the outside trip, or the outside trip from the body lock. The rear naked choke is the number 1 submission. Yep. The guillotine, arm bar, arm triangle, and then the triangle. Those are the top 5 submissions. Those are the techniques that you need to know. Although they do need to be accountable against, be on time with your uniform ready to go, being a good partner. And on time isn't class at 6 o'clock, they're showing up at 5:59. It's showing up 10, 15 minutes earlier and making sure they have their shit together. So it's the combination of a couple things that they should be working on in order to be, I guess, a more honed human being / martial art.
I love it. What was your toughest fight ever in MMA and in kickboxing?
My phone went back to, sorry.
It's okay.
One more time. My audio shut off on this for some reason. My audio's working. It's just on my phone. But I think you asked my toughest MMA fight.
Yeah. And kickboxing.
My toughest kickboxing fight, I guess psychologically, it was against Ramon Deckers because it was such an idol to me. I trained with him in 2002, and then we fought in 2004. Now, I've obviously known about Ramon Deckers before we fought, but that was a hard one for me because it was someone who I really looked up to and admired, and now we're fighting, so that was tricky. So I felt I held back a little bit, but again, it's Ramon Deckers. In MMA, my toughest fight was probably Genki Sudo, my first UFC fight, because I was put in some. I allowed myself to be in some bad positions and had to fight through that. So that's for MMA, and then kickboxing.
Was there a fight that was more emotional?
Let me get you back on. Sorry.
No problem. You had Bluetooth on the car, and the car probably shut down.
I'm trying to get you back on my phone.
Yeah.
There we go. Bluetooth, add device, our phone, connect. Okay.
There we go. Yeah, it's switching over now. We can hear it.
Back on. Okay.
There we are.
Sorry,
What about an emotional fight where you were mad at someone?
Emotional fight. Emotional. I fought a guy. I rematched the guy who beat me in our first fight, and it was just emotional to me to get that fight back because I felt I didn't perform the first time, and I wanted to have another crack at it. And he stepped up and rematched me. So that was a tough fight for me right there. That was Sam Morgan, and we rematched in the Ring of Fire.
Wow. Yeah. What's the experience like on the Ultimate Fighter? How was that for you?
So I've been on there a couple times. When I was on with TJ against the Alpha Male guys.
That was weird, eh? That was a weird thing.
Weird. It was.
That's the one I'm referring to.
TJ and I talked before we went on the show, and we're like, let's not cause any drama. Let's just handle our business. We have, I think the team was 8 guys. We have 8 guys that are there for their own career and their own future. But yet the producers want us to make a show for the public and not worry about this guy's career, right? And I'm like, well, I'm going to be here to help these fighters out. I'm not here so the audience can have some more drama, right? There's enough of that shit in the world. So we stuck to our guns and did our job, and the results showed because we won they beat one of our guys, and they beat him twice. So it's like we smoked everybody. So it was a good opportunity to showcase how to handle undisciplined gentleman,
That's
and
interesting.
how to focus on your task at hand. But looking back on it, still crosses my mind every now and then. I still wish I would have punched Buckles in the face.
Okay. I'm glad you said it, because I thought he deserved that as well. Like,
You know,
I
see,
really did. I really did.
What people didn't realize, he was actually a lot of the problem in Alpha Male before I left. He's one of the reasons why I left. So there was some. He was the guy who was saying, "Hey, Duane, this," and I'd be like, "Oh shit, really?" And then he'd go back and tell favor. So he was actually the guy playing both sides and causing the drama.
Yeah.
He's actually got some psychological issues, and he's no longer there. And I don't want to bring his medical history into play here, but he's actually not medically sound, and so it's not really his fault. But he was causing some drama. But other than the fact that, some things with Faber, I don't think he's the most trustworthy guy, and I don't think I was as mature to handle that job business-wise as I should have been, as I am now. But the coaching aspect, that's what I do. I'm here to teach martial arts, and the results, everyone smoked on that team when I was coaching the team.
That's right.
I mean, the first world title, I think we went 13 fights straight. I mean, we were just on a roll. But that's what happens when you have dedicated world-class athletes with the traditional martial arts honor and respect, with the proper techniques and drills implemented. It's just proof in the pudding on how you develop and extract an athlete and a martial artist. Check. It was done. It just had some, some egotistical hearts that were in play at the moment, and people wanting to have that interview attention more so than the other guy. All the attention was on me as a good coach, and I was taken away from Faber, and I think he got a little butthurt.
Yeah. It's clear.
But whatever.
Yeah. He did.
So sketchy, telling the guys, we got to uptake. They used to take 5% from the guys, and now we got to take 10% because it's going to Duane. Well, 5% was going to me, and they were still keeping the other 5%. So there were little weird things going on that weren't as ethical as I felt they should have been. But there's a handful of small little things. But I'll tell you what, without having the opportunity to train those guys, I wouldn't understand martial arts at the level I do now. So I'm very thankful for that. And it was a win-win situation for everybody, right? So it's all good.
Who's the next MMA star?
Yeah.
Under my belt?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Or
in general, both. Let's say both.
Yeah, both.
Okay, well, I only train a handful of people as I'm busy with my other businesses and my family and such. So I only train. Well, actually, I have 4 fighters. And TJ is going to come back and get the belt for sure. That's just how that's going to be. I have another guy, PJ McGee. Bobby King is badass also. And then Juan Archuleta. But outside of that, I don't know. I focus on what I can control, and that's the guys in my bubble.
Yeah.
I don't really know who outside of that. But one person that I know is going to be a champion here in the future is Corey Sandhagen. That's for sure.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah. He's a kid to look out for. He's good for the first 3 rounds. He doesn't understand he doesn't have the maturity for the championship rounds yet, but he's going to be a world champion within a year for sure. Once TJ gets the belt, I like to see TJ get the belt back, defend it once or twice, maybe a super fight or 2, and then step away. And then at that point, Corey can have the belt.
How do you know when to step away?
That's a good question. If you're in a good financial position, you should step away when the heart tells you to. My last couple of years of fighting, I fought strictly for the money. I didn't want to go back and be an electrician or go back to working at McDonald's.
That's right.
So I fought strictly for the money in my last couple of fights, to be honest. And that's not always recommended. But without those tough lessons, I wouldn't know what I know today. But I've always had in my heart that I would have my own dojo, my own school. And when the time came for that to happen, that's when I knew I needed to step away. Well, I stepped away because my knee got blown out. So this is an interesting thing too with the UFC, right? Well, not just UFC, but probably a lot of shows in general. And I don't know how much retirement plans they can have for the fighters, depending on their, their P&L, whatever. But I fight for the UFC, blow out my knee. I have a 6-month injury and I have 2 months worth of pay. All I'm going to say is if I'm a millionaire or billionaire, whatever the UFC or Dana White has, and if one of my employees got hurt, I'd make sure that motherfucker is set for 6 months. I wouldn't let him, leave England with a blown out knee and 2 months worth of pay. I thought that was fucked up, to be honest. Yeah, during the whole quarantine, the lockdown bullshit that happened a year and a half, 2 years ago, whatever. I don't make a lot of money with my staff, but they all got paid during the lockdown before I got paid. Now, I just take that into account. Like if someone got hurt on my job, I would take care of them. And I feel Dana White did not do that with me. So that's another little sore subject on my end. You know, it's if you got all that money and you got a struggling fighter trying to make ends meet, and he's got a wife and kids, and he's out for 6 months and 2 months worth of pay. How are you gonna let somebody leave England with 20 grand and be out for 6 months?
Well, that's my next question is how do we bring a better playing field or a better balance with the financial part of things?
I in all honesty, we see these things online where, the NFL and the NBA, they pay a certain percentage, and that percentage is higher than what the UFC is paying their guys.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it costs to run the UFC versus the NBA or the NFL, but if there can be some happy middle ground, like all the Bellator guys, like those guys never complain. They're getting paid more than the UFC guys, like that's for sure. So it'd be nice just for them to step up and pay the guys a little bit more, but not so just handing out money though. They need to hand out books. The Richest Man in Babylon, The 6 Laws of Money, profitable income, 20% of all you earn is yours to keep. Invest that 20%, create a budget, own your own home, and gain more knowledge. Like I learned that. I got that book from Mike Dolce. So, it's not just giving out money. It's not handouts. It's giving people the skill set so that they can earn money on their own.
Because we're watching that, though. Aren't we watching that? We're watching it live right now because we live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Bang, and which is like in the middle, like right by you're in Denver, right?
You're right above me. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Right above you. And there's X amount of ex-UFC fighters that live in this city, and I know that all of them have to have a job right now, and it's not, and all they have jobs not in martial arts.
Yeah, so that's another. So I have an affiliate. There's an affiliate program where I teach other schools what to teach and how to teach, and part of that mission is to give these ex-fighters an opportunity outside of the cage for them to teach and share in their passion of martial arts. So one of my guys in Saskatoon, Coach Kurt Southern, Sensei Southern, dude, I love that guy. He is I haven't met a Canadian that I didn't like. You guys are all fucking sweet.
Kurt Southern's awesome. Yeah.
And he's awesome. But that's one of the things, when I got done fighting, I was in a tough spot and I was like, shit, what do I do? So I realized the business world of martial arts, there's money to be made there if you have a good service to provide. Correct. And I just made sure that I had a good service to provide. Now I have a good service. I have the real drills and skills and combinations that have been proven to be successful, trained in a safe and effective manner to help people learn and grow. So if more people could wrap their mind around that aspect of providing a service back to the world and not just expect a handout, I think they'd be much better off. But again, the 6 Laws of Money, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, Miyamoto Musashi's Book of 5 Rings, the King James Version of the Bible. These are all great books. Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 Agreements. Like those are my books. Those are the ones I stick to that really help me become a better human being. Awesome. Martial artist, coach, everything.
Yeah, it's all combined. It's all combined.
We're running out of time with you, but I there's been so much that I'm trying to unpack even as you're saying it.
Oh yeah.
But like,
let's do it again.
If you, 100% we'll have round 2 of this.
But it's not where we're going with the UFC though. They have to come up with like a pension plan.
Yes.
They have to come up. They have to. My father's
or a guarantee. Especially if there's an injury.
Well, my father's 88 years old, and he was in the NHL as a referee for 30 years. My father's 88 years old, getting checks from the NHL Hockey League to this day. And you know what he says to me? He says, Mark, I make more money now from my pension in the NHL than when because it was 40 years ago, right?
50s,
and
60s,
money's there. Money's there.
Well,
yes.
Listen, you open the Pandora box, and I've always been an advocate of that. Listen, when I owned the MFC, and I said one day I said it. I said, what they're doing with the sponsorship money is the 11th sin. And you know what happened? Dana White, and I had no problem with Dana White at that time. He goes to Twitter and he F-bombs me on Twitter and he says, fuck Mark Pavlich. And I said, fuck Mark Pavlich, because I'm the only one that's scared of you. I'm just telling the truth. I'm telling people, if you're doing profit sharing, when I owned the MFC, my profit sharing was about a 60-40 split when it was all said and done. 60 for me, 40 for the fighters. When some of the fighters, we had over 150 UFC guys that fought my show, and they would tell me sometimes like, oh my God, Mark, I'm making the same money here that I made in the UFC. I'm like, that's bananas. Like that makes no sense. But
when I should pay their guys more money.
But when my dad at 88 years old says he's making more money now than when he was in the NHL, you have to set up a pension for the fighters. per se, yourself, the Jens Pulvers of the world, the people that all fought back in the day, like why aren't they receiving something for doing this? Like this ground.
Dana White says it's a what is it? It's an opportunity. It's a privilege, and yes, it is, and it's a privilege for you to have people dedicate their fucking life to put on a show for you, and you don't take care of them. That's fucked up.
Yeah. Well, that's like, it's funny. My uncle Marty Pavlich, who started the hockey union for the entire NHL back in the 50s, they said to my Uncle Marty when he walked in when he played for the Detroit Red Wings after winning 4 Stanley Cups, they said, Marty, this is what you're getting paid this year. My Uncle Marty in the 50s said, I ain't doing it. They said, what? You ain't doing it? He goes, no, I'm not going to play for $9,000. I want more money. They said, you know what he's doing? That he was the first person to ever say that. Him and Ted Lindsay started the whole hockey union for the NHL. And my Uncle Marty said, you know what? I'm not playing for $9,000. They said, we're going to trade you. My Uncle Marty said, doesn't matter. I've got 4 Stanley Cups. I've played 10 years. I quit. Go screw yourself. My Uncle Marty's still alive to this day, 93 years old. He's a multi-gazillionaire because he had that in the back of his mind that you think you're going to tell me what I'm worth, right? And look at what happened to Francis Ngannou. We haven't seen him fight because they're telling Francis Ngannou what he should get paid. But Tyrone Woodley fights Jake Paul and makes more money in one fight.
$1 million.
And a bullshit boxing fight makes more money than he made forever. And you know what? We can't talk shit about Jake Paul and his brother. We should be applauding them because they're basically
getting people paid.
They're the pension plan for a lot of UFC fighters, which is disgusting, but it's true.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, right.
Listen, I'm not making fun of it. It's disgusting. And I'm glad you brought it up today because I've been watching it when I see guys that are from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, working normal jobs who fought 10 times in the UFC or 11 times in the UFC. I trained Jason McDonald. I trained Jason McDonald.
Oh, cool.
And Jason McDonald lives in Red Deer, not that far from us. When this was going on, I said, Jason, we're doing great right now, but please open a gym. He said, yeah, okay, Mark, I'll open a gym. Okay, Jason, perfect. Start going that direction. Now he's got, same as you, like 250, 300 students. He's doing his stuff. But that was back in the day because I could smell what was going on. Like, there's no pension. He got injured. Yeah,
a pension. So how about just more education in general for the fighters, right? Because a lot of people they fight because maybe they don't have the proper personality to have a regular job, so they're a little bit of a rogue alpha male, so they want to go and fight. Okay, let's take care of these guys. They're taking care of our company. Let's educate them. Let's let them know we care. Let's put in a pension. It's a write-off. Let's take care of these guys. It's good karma. Isn't that what God wants us to do, is take care of us and people around us? You're just shooting yourself in the foot and look like an ass more and more every day if you don't take care of your people.
Well, we've had professional guys on our show from the NFL, from Major League Baseball. When that pay stuff comes up, they can't even believe this goes on to this day in the UFC because everybody bragged about they were worth $4 billion. And probably someone found out they're probably not worth $4 billion, but someone paid $4 billion. If you're worth $4 billion, your athletes should have proper medical. They should have a pension plan. They should be getting wages when COVID was around. This is the way it works, right? So in real places, the NHL, 50% to the owners, 50% to the fighters. And to the hockey players, same in the NFL. It's not like I think the UFC is somewhere in the teens.
Wow.
Like the percentage is in the teens to the fighters.
My kids instructor, I pay him more money than what the kids program bring in. It's just like I feel like that's what I should be doing. To pay this guy an actual salary, I pay him more than what the program brings in.
Wow.
It's weird. It's weird.
But it's all good. It's all good. I'll lead by example. They can follow.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Listen, we're going to get part 2 with Bang down the road, okay? He's got to go because he's busy. Bang's busy.
I get to make my own schedule for the most part. I'm blessed for sure. But gentlemen, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate the time to hopefully share some knowledge and impact lives. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much for joining us. You have a great night.
Good night.
Yeah, I do it.
Duane.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is an old school martial artist, right? And the funny part is they're all coming back to him now to learn.
Yes.
Like TJ Dillashaw's like, oh, he went over here, went over there. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to go train with Bang. Why? Because he's going to show you. Listen, we had Boss Rutan on the show, same thing. Why the hell are people training with Boss Rutan? He's in California. Why aren't people training with Boss Rutan? I mean, it's crazy what he knows.
Dude, I watched a lot of his videos today, and I'm like, that knee.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it was terrifying. It came out of nowhere. Like it was, and it would like get through. Like, I don't know how, like, so lightning it was. It was, and guys would just crumple after taking one.
You know, the thing about Bang is his style was kill or be killed. So if you watch his MMA career, you watch his kickboxing career, it wasn't like he was trying to manifest a kind of like just a squeeze out a victory.
No,
it was either kill or be killed.
Yeah, no.
And he would Jonathan Goulet, who's from Canada, he knocked him out in 6 seconds, arguably the fastest knockout. In the UFC, and then Ryan Jimmo got that. That's what happens on our show sometimes. Everybody that's watching at home is that
so he knocked the guy out in 6.1 seconds, and it was literally.
Yeah, people think it was the way they did it. Most people, even Joe Rogan said he thinks it's around 4.5 seconds. Yeah. But it's just the way before he hit the ground. He was dead already, right? So that's the thing that most people don't understand. But
his fights were vicious. If you want to watch a highlight reel, watch Ludwig. They were vicious.
And most people don't know this. He fought Genki Sudo in UFC 42. Genki Sudo was a rock star. Okay, he was a Japanese fighter. I was amazed by him back in the day. But I was like in awe of him because he looked like an absolute rock star. He was the reincarnation of Bruce Lee, and he was fighting in the UFC, and it was just great to see him. And Bang beats him.
Wow,
and it's crazy, you know. So like I said, even Bang could talk about this in the future too, about holding pads. Like the way he holds pads, that's an art form in itself. The way he holds pads, like it's crazy.
Right, yeah, because that was one of the things too. Anyway, that was great. He, obviously, so much there that we could keep talking about. But thanks so much, Duane, for joining us.
Yes.
Now, talk about our teams are falling apart, Mark.
My team's horseshit right now, and we lost three in a row. And I'm not going to say it's because of Gruden or whatever it's from. But listen,
is it because of my prediction?
Yes, you predicted, and you're right 98% of the time, probably. And you're going to be right this time around too, unless a divine miracle happens from above.
I remember a few short weeks ago how you said I was wrong and my time was over.
I did, and I'm incorrect. and
now there were some exterior circumstance, but I in my calculation I included those things.
Yes, yeah, it doesn't matter. And listen, I'll tell you this: I made amends with Derek Carr recently on social media.
Yeah,
that it's one of my
you shouldn't have. You were premature.
I was premature, but you know I want to make amends in the fact that. He's not just the problem. He's a big problem. He's a big problem, but there's many problems. And unfortunately, this is going to end catastrophic for the Raiders this year. Like, they're not going to make the playoffs. Raider Nation could get mad at me all they want. I love the Raiders so much. I'm going to give you the stone cold truth today. We're not going to make the playoffs. When you let KC walk into Las Vegas and basically urinate all over us, that's when you know a team's had enough. And then when I saw last week's game, I knew they're dead in the water. I mean, they're not. Right. When they played Cincinnati didn't look like anything special, and they lost.
Well,
to
they
them.
were struggling too, but Cincy.
No, they're not special.
No, I think they could be. Burrow's awesome.
They will
Chase
down the road.
Is awesome.
Yeah,
T. Higgins, and you got Joe Mixon as a running back. I mean, that's a potent offense. There's no question.
And a lot of teams, you see the NFL this year, it's so bizarre because you see that you can't win money in the NFL this year because teams that shouldn't be winning are winning. I have never seen this. And then, of course, your Seattle team is looking like, listen, we already know this. Pete Carroll's done after this year.
He's going to retire,
He has to retire.
Russell's going away.
Russell Wilson's going to the Giants. We've already decided that. So just hey, New York, start smiling. Because Russ is coming to the Big Apple.
If Russell goes to the Giants, they become a contender.
Did you see who's back today for the Giants?
Their
main guy.
Oh, Barkley,
Yeah, Barkley's back tonight.
Yeah.
So I mean,
no, honestly, if they can stay healthy, because that's been a big injury problem there. But And with Russell, I mean, that's a potent offense again. And they have a
I
great
agree.
D. So I think that changes the game. And they have the draft picks to send to Seattle to get
They do.
Russell.
Yeah,
So
and
there's that.
Yeah, and they'll do. And listen, Seattle's not going to go down for long, okay? But the Raiders, the problem with them is we have a long-term problem here of changing the culture. And I've said that before. You're seeing that with the Oilers right now in Edmonton. The culture's being changed. Whether you want to, you don't have to like the Oilers, you don't have to like Calgary, you don't have to like wherever. But look at Calgary too. Culture's changing again in the right way. You know, everybody thought, oh, the captain's gone now. Oh, we got rid of him. The team's going to collapse. No, we're going to change the culture. And one thing that was not talked about enough in sports is the culture. The culture is when you can play really shitty in a day and win. So you can play shitty in a game and still win. That's when you know the culture of your team is together.
When you look at those great teams throughout history, they built that culture. They spent time building that.
The Montreal Canadiens.
And I think
the Montreal Canadiens. Look at
the old Oilers.
The old Oilers, Montreal Canadiens. They all made that culture, right? And that's just something that the
thing was, and then with the Oilers, like it was rumored a couple years ago that they didn't hang out together, they didn't go out for dinner together, and
it was
all of a sudden it's starting to happen a little bit more. And look what happens: you gel as a team, and that has to happen. And especially in hockey, it's one of the sports that chemistry and the culture of that has to work. It has to jive, otherwise you're not going to play great together. And it's been proven time and time again. Look at the Rangers when they bought a team and they tried to put together the dream team and it just fell apart because they're all divas. And so it just, you can't have that in that sport. And it's so important, this culture. Also,
I'm digging the Stingers hat today too. Right?
Yeah, I know.
So, you know? So most people,
back-to-back champs.
Back-to-back champs. Listen, they're the Canadian Basketball League, everybody, and it's let me tell you something, for bang for the buck, best money spent to go watch live.
It's awesome.
Best money spent to watch live.
And honestly, I still say this today that live basketball is my favorite sport.
Oh, I love it. Love it.
It is really fun. I love the interaction. You can interact with the players, interact with the refs. It's you're on the floor with them.
You're part of the
experience. If you get to sit on the floor.
Yeah.
If you get to sit down on the floor, do it. Take the chance. Spend the money and just go
spend the money.
What else happened?
Well, crystal glass for all your glass needs. Go to 310 Glass if you're looking for any kind of glass products, whether it be commercial, whether it be residential or custom. Call 310 Glass.
That's it. That's what you gotta do.
Yes.
I think,
Then check us out on all social media at Me and Jesse Pod or Podcast. You can go to our Twitter and Instagram and check us out there, and updated quite frequently. And
all the old shows, you can watch them.
Yeah.
Watch this one again because Duane had some great things to say.
He did. Bring a piece of paper and pen.
That's right. You can always take notes on the Me and Jesse
take notes.
podcast.
Write it down. Write it down. Write it down. Write it down.
Well, thanks so much once again, Duane Bang Ludwig, for
a lot of insight. On
really cool.
on what's going on in the world. And I'm surprised I'll be honest about this. I'm surprised he was so open about certain things with the UFC and Dana White when he's an active trainer.
Yeah.
In that, but I think that's what it has to come to in this day and age.
These guys, again, those are the guys that have to stand up.
Look at Marty Pavlich back in the day, wins 4 Stanley Cups, and he says, "No, I'm not going to play for $9,000." He says, "He's a pound salt," and then the rest has changed. So people have to understand, like, your value is your value, and UFC tells you what you're going to get paid. In boxing, and it's not so much like that.
No, and it is a huge discrepancy. We've talked about it a lot, and everyone is on the same page with it. That it has to change. Something has to change. These guys are not getting enough for as much as you have to commit. Arguably the most commitment out of any sport is MMA, and they're not being compensated.
But look at right now, even in baseball, they have the union in baseball, they have the union in hockey.
Every sport, every major sport does.
And I'm saying, and they do, and it's so this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I'm for or against unions. I'm just saying is if the other sports have them, maybe MMA should have one too as well. And you will see a big difference in how fighters are treated, how fighters are. See what's happening in the UFC is you're technically a subcontractor. Like you're a subcontractor, and that's not really true. That's just in terminology. You're an employee of their company.
The whole
right?
privilege argument that Dana has, I find is just such garbage.
No,
Because
you
it's
can't.
like if you wouldn't have a show if these guys didn't sacrifice themselves for you.
Francis Ngannou could go in a boxing fight tomorrow and make 20 times more money in one fight than he's made in his entire career in MMA.
Well, this is where to me, like Bellator or the one in Asia,
one FC.
Need to just poach these guys, just to say, hey, we'll pay you double.
Yeah, but that's the problem. The exposure-wise, on the like one gets huge exposure, but not in North America.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if you're getting paid.
Yeah, I agree. There's probably guys in Bellator that say the same thing.
And you have the possibility of becoming the thing if you can take the best fighters.
Well, we already know this right now that AJ McKee is the best 145er in the world. He's probably if he really decides, he could be the best 155er in the world. Yeah. And he's fighting in Bellator, and they're doing a horseshit job in promoting him, terrible job in promoting him. And if the UFC, if they put him in the UFC tomorrow, he probably beats Volkanovski easy. Probably beats him easy, right? Because you have to be tricky to beat AJ McKee. If you're not tricky, you're not going to beat him. No. So he's probably easily the best 145er in the world, and he'll probably be the best 155er when he decides to be. And he's fighting an organization that's not promoting him properly, and he could just sit over there all the time and say, I'm the best, and he is. But how is that crossover going to take place with him going into the UFC one day? You know?
Yeah.
And paying him what he's worth, and then you have to minus. Well, he can't get his own sponsors anymore. Yeah. He can't get this. He can't get this. So I want to be in the UFC, but would I make less money? Yeah. Or I don't know where the logic comes from.
It is one of those questions that needs to be answered.
Correct.
Until next time, that over there, Mark Pavlich. I'm Jesse Marno. This has been the Me and Jesse podcast. Thanks once again to our guest for joining us, and we'll have him back for round 2.
Yeah, Bang has to come back.
Until next time, I have nothing clever to say because both our teams suck, and if I say anything clever...
Oh, it's so bad. So bad. We're playing Thanksgiving, too. Oh, against the Cowboys. Boy. Oh, no. I got to hear Cowboy Nation just shit all over me now. Oh, my God. It's so bad.
We'll see you next time, everybody, on the Me and Jesse podcast.
Thanks for watching the Me and Jesse podcast. Follow us at facebook.com/meandjesse. Thanks for watching the Me and Jesse podcast. Follow us at facebook.com/meandjesse.